So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions are a vastly improved team going into the 2022 season in comparison to where they were in the 2021 offseason, right? They made some huge additions in free agency, including DJ Chark, Deshaun Elliott, and Jarrad Davis, but where they really got a lot of their new talent is from the 2022 NFL draft class, where they drafted Aiden Hutchinson and Jameson Williams in the first round, as well as taking Josh Paschal, a player that was graded with a first-round draft pick by many NFL analysts and much of the NFL media, stealing Kirby Joseph late on day 2 and Malcolm Rodriguez in the middle of day 3, helped the Detroit Lions add a ton of talent to a young and improving roster. And with that being the case, there's a lot of different predictions of how the Lions 2022 season will go. Hosting the 28th strength of schedule in the NFL this year, a lot of people have vastly different ideas of what the Lions are going to look like next season, with record predictions as low as 4-13, as well as record predictions being as high as 15-2. So today we're going to take a look at the Detroit Lions roster. We're going to take a look at the improvements that they made, the games that they played a season ago, the record and the schedule that they have this season, and try to find out and try to take a look at what are the realistic expectations for this season. What should we be looking for out of the 2022 Detroit Lions, and what would they have to do in order to have a successful season? So with all that being said, that is what we're going to be talking about today. And with all the intro stuff out of the way, let's get into taking a look at the Detroit Lions and what our realistic expectations should be for a successful season in 2022. Now, the Detroit Lions roster, as I mentioned in the beginning, is vastly improved from a season ago, and I do not believe that the Lions are bottom of the NFL in any major positional group. I believe they have a top 20 quarterback in Jared Goff, who's not necessarily an elite quarterback, but is certainly better than some of the other guys in the NFL, and you could do a lot worse at quarterback than Jared Goff. Their running back room is very deep with DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, and Craig Reynolds. Jermar Jefferson is also in there, as he was a productive rookie as well. I think saying top 20 as far as the entirety of the running back core isn't outlandish to say. Top 15 wide receiver core with Chark, Williams, St. Brown, Cephus, Reynolds, and Raymond. It's a really good, really deep wide receiving core at this point. Top 15, top half of the NFL is pretty realistic for that. I think top 15 receiving core is pretty realistic without being super biased towards the Detroit Lions. Have a potential of being a top 10 receiving core, but as of right now, I think top 15 with all the talent that they have and all the depth that they've accumulated is pretty realistic to say. Top 7 tight end, I don't know if you're going to name 7 tight ends better than TJ Hawkinson right now, and Brock Wright in his own right had a pretty productive rookie season. And then the offensive line gets so much praise. I've heard PFF say they're as high as a top 3 offensive line in football. I don't know about top 3, but I'd say top 5 is pretty realistic, and at the very worst, they are a top 10 offensive line in the NFL. As far as edge rushers, right, you have a really deep edge rushing, and you have a really deep front 7 in general with Hutchinson and Okwara and the other Okwara and Harris and Paschal and Levi and Aleem, and you have a ton of really young, talented defensive linemen that you can rotate around. You have a really young, good, deep secondary, all the way from Amani Oruwariye at cornerback 1 to Chase Lucas at cornerback 7. You have Tracy Walker at safety 1, and then you go all the way down to Will Harris at safety 5. It's a really, really good young football team. They are talented in a lot of areas. They have some versatile linebackers that can play. They are a young and improving team that have quite a bit of talent at every level of the organization and at every level of the NFL roster. Pair that with the fact that they have the 28th strength of schedule this season, it's not hard to see why the optimism around Detroit is starting to build and why a lot of people think the Lions are going to make a big jump from Dan Campbell's first year to his second. So we're going to go over the best and worst case scenarios and then talk about what the realistic expectation would be, finding the even middle ground between the best and worst case scenarios this season. The best case scenario for the Detroit Lions this season, in my opinion, is 12-5. I think if the Lions win in week 1, if the Detroit Lions go 4-1 into their bye week, right? So they beat, the Eagles, the Commanders, the Seahawks, and the Vikings in their first 4 weeks, lose to the Vikings, or they win 4 of those first 5 games, which isn't super unrealistic. That would probably be best case scenario going into the bye 4-1. I think you have to upset the Bills on Thanksgiving. You have to sweep the Vikings and sweep the Bears, going 4-2 or 5-1 in the division, and winning at least 6 to 7 of the winnable football games. Winnable football games, in my opinion, are the games versus either the Commanders, the Seahawks, the Bears, the Giants, the Jaguars, the Jets, and the Carolina Panthers. All of those teams drafted top 11 in the NFL draft, and I believe all of those teams are less talented on paper than the Detroit Lions. I think you could maybe give a slight edge to the New York Jets. I think the Jets are building a very good franchise and a very good roster as well. But I would argue that on paper, the Detroit Lions are more talented than the Commanders, the Seahawks, the Bears, the Giants, the Jags, and the Carolina Panthers. That is 7 of the Detroit Lions games next season. If they win 6 to 7 of those games, upset the Bills on Thanksgiving, go 5-1 into the bye week, they can win 12 to 13 games next season. That would be the ideal. That would be the perfect, nobody gets hurt, Cincinnati Bengals Cinderella run like I said, the Bengals did a season ago. Will it happen? Probably not. But if everybody stays healthy and the Lions exceed expectations and do what they need to do and win all the games that they should win with a key upset or two, they can go 12-5. That is their ceiling this season. Their floor, however, is drastically different. As I see their floor, right, with this floor, you're going to expect some injuries to occur. If injuries hit a lot like they did last year, taking out a lot of our major starters, I think the Lions could be closer to their floor at 6-11, where you're talking about 3 to 4 losses before the bye. You're talking 2-4 in the division, right? Maybe you split with the Vikings, or you get swept by the Packers, or maybe you get swept by the Vikings and the Packers, and you sweep the Bears, or you split versus the Bears and you split versus the Vikings, right? I think 2-4 in the division is the worst that you are going to see, because that's where they were a season ago, but they could very well repeat that division record, right? You're talking about losing 50-ish% of those winnable games, losing 3 to 4 of those winnable games versus the teams I talked about previously. And then you're talking about not one major upset versus the Packers, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Patriots, or the Eagles. And that puts you at 6-11, right? 2 divisional wins, maybe a win before the bye, and maybe 2 to 3 wins versus, the teams that finished bottom 11 a season ago. That is, in my opinion, the worst case scenario. I do not see the Lions winning less than 6 games. I think they've improved too drastically, and I think their schedule is too perfect for them to lose more than 6 games. Will they be closer to 6 wins than 13? Probably. Will they win double-digit games this season? I don't know. It's possible, but I don't think it's necessarily likely. But in a worst-case scenario, in a scenario where the Lions have 0 major upsets, win 50% of the games versus bottom half teams of the NFL, go 2-4 in the division again, and in some reality, don't sweep either the Bears, Vikings, or the Green Bay Packers, or they split, or whatever the case may be, and they lose 3 or 4 of their first 5 games, that is a really, really poor season. But at the worst case scenario, I don't see the Lions being worse than a 6-win football team this season. So that brings us to realistic expectations. What should we expect out of the Detroit Lions to be a successful season? For me, I've gone over this a couple of different times, and I did put this on the channel as a community post, but I think the Detroit Lions are going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 8-9. I see the Detroit Lions having a relatively slow start to the NFL season, as they actually do start with a worst case scenario. I think they start the season 1-5. I don't think they start the season very strong. I think they lose week 1 to Philadelphia. I think they win in week 2 versus the Washington Commanders. I think they get upset by Seattle. I think that they play a very close game in Minnesota, but they lose. And I think the Patriots, they also might lose. I think they start 1-4 in the division, or 1-4 in their season going into the bye week at week 6. However, I do think after the bye week, it will get significantly better, as I believe the Detroit Lions will go 1-1 versus Green Bay, 1-1 versus Minnesota, like they did a season ago, but instead of getting swept by Chicago this year, I think they will either split or sweep Chicago in their entirety. I think in both games, the Lions were incredibly close. I think both games together versus Chicago last year were within 7 points total, right? They lost on a last-second field goal on Thanksgiving, and I believe the week 4 game a season ago also was within 1 score, maybe even within 3 to 4 points. So they were very close to beating the Chicago Bears both times a season ago, and with the additions that the Lions made and the steps back that the Bears took, I don't think it's unrealistic to say the Lions sweep the Bears, split the Packers, and split the Vikings like they did a season ago, going 4-2 in the NFC North. I think in a conservative estimate, you go 4-4 or 4-3 in those winnable football games versus the 7 games that the Detroit Lions have against the Seahawks, Commanders, Bears, Giants, Jags, Jets, and Panthers, right? A conservative estimate would be 50%. You win half of those games, you lose half of those games, right? You're going to win some games that you're not supposed to if you're the Lions. You're going to lose some games that you are expected to win. I think 4-4 or 4-3 in those games is pretty realistic, winning around 50 to 60% of those winnable games and getting one major upset versus either Buffalo, Philadelphia, Dallas, Miami, or New England. If the Lions can go 1-5 in those games, go 4-4, or even 4-2, or even 3-3 in the division, if they can win 4 to 5 of the games versus those bottom 11 teams, and they win just one game in the first month of football, they can finish the season at 8-9, pushing for a potential wild card spot. Now, do I believe the Lions are a playoff contender yet? No. I think they need one more year to build up this roster. I think they need a higher ceiling quarterback. I think they maybe need some more playmakers. I think they need some more stars and some more superstars on this roster. But I do think they are close. I do think by the end of the season, in week 16 versus Chicago, in week 17 versus the Green Bay Packers, I think you're going to see the Detroit Lions in playoff contention. I think you're going to see them in the hunt in those graphics where they show, right, playoff contenders, who's got a bye, who's got the first seed. When it shows in the hunt, or even some weeks during the wild card, I think you could see the Detroit Lions right there in the hunt for the playoffs week in and week out until the NFL season concludes. So, with that being said, that is where I believe the Lions are as a franchise right now. I think 8-9 to 9-8 is the realistic expectations we should have for this football team. If they win less than 6 games, I would consider this season a massive failure. If the Lions win more than 11 games, I would consider this season a massive success, and I would consider them ahead of schedule of where they should be on their rebuilding process. But I think 8 wins is pretty realistic. It's still a losing record for the Detroit Lions, but it's right around 500. It's right around where I think the Detroit Lions should be, and with the Detroit Lions being a team that is really, solid at every position, but doesn't have very many superstars, I think a record right around 500 is very realistic and very, very possible for the 2022 Detroit Lions. So with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about this roster. Let me know what you guys think about the schedule down in the comments below, and leave your record predictions so I can see where the rest of the Lions are at. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.